Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rudolf Okonkwo. This week, President Jonathan finally named a 26-man committee to work out the modalities for granting amnesty to Boko Haram members. One of the people named in the committee is Mr. Shehu Sani. We are honored to have Mr. Sani joining us from Kaduna. Mr. Sani is the president of the Congress, the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria. Mr. Sani, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much.
Sani, let me start by asking you, like everybody else in the world, I assume that you saw how the Americans dealt with the Boston Marathon bombing this week. I wanted to know, how do you feel about the way American leaders and law enforcement agencies dealt with that attack?
Well, what happened in Boston and how it ended and how the authorities handled it is something we can only dream of from this part of the world. And there is a lot to learn in terms of the determination of the security agencies there and also the government to get its hands on the culprits. The overall lesson is that in societies like that, you can't do everything and simply get away with it. So all I can say is that this is something we will have wished for to happen in our own part of the world. But I think we still have a long way to go in terms of getting to that level.
Mm. Now, let's get to Boko Haram and the Amnesty Committee, which you were named to and you declined. Now, what do you think is the reason why you were not consulted before your name was put on the committee list?
Well, first of all, I think I will make this clarification. As a Nigerian, particularly as a concerned Nigerian, I'm passionate about peace, and I have in the past contributed my on quota towards saying that we bring an end to this violence and killings in northern part of Nigeria. But what is very clear from the experiences which we have had is that the government has proven over time not to be serious. All the effort which we have made in the past have been sabotaged by elements within the government. Now, the government has acceded to the call by people that an amnesty is the key to solving the problem. Now, it proclaimed an amnesty, which was rejected, and then later by the insurgents, and then later it set up a committee. So as far as I'm concerned, when I say I declined to serve because I was not consulted, is that if you are giving me a job to do, I think I have the right to give my consent or not, or whether I should participate. And secondly, I think if you think that I am worthy and I will be of value to whatever you want to give me to do, I think it will be necessary for you to get my advice on how we can go about it from step one. But what happened simply was that our names was flashed on the national telly and on the internet and all the print media that I have been appointed as a member of an amnesty committee. Then if by the effort which you have made in past made it the reason why I should be in that committee, I think those who drew of that list should have called me and then seek my advice on how to go about this. And when I say advice, I mean there were two efforts made in the past on how this violence can be resolved at. But what is critical is that before any move was made in the past, there were months of contacts with the insurgents. But you don't come out and say, this is what you want to be done, and then it's done. So whatever you do, you need to do your homework very well, so that by the time you are out, it will be fruitful. But what happened was simply people make statements for political reasons, and I don't think I should be part of what, at the end of the day, will not produce any result. And that is why I humbly and respectfully thank our president for seeing me as someone who can do. But I had to decline because I knew we have started from at a wrong step. And if we are to get these things right, we need to do some form of discreet consultation to get the feelings of the insurgents from the other side. What are their views as far as the issue of amnesty? If they say they are with it, they are for it, then we say, okay, give us your input on how these things can go through. By that, you carry them along from the idea to the realization of the idea. But you simply flash my name on TV and think that I'm looking for a job, and then I will say, okay, let's go. Well, it is good, but I don't think it will work. And I think the best thing, the honorable thing for me to do is to decline to get into what is dead on arrival.
Another reason you gave was that, that the people who could help solve the problem were not named in the committee. I recognize that one Dr. Adetokunbo Ahmed, who you once said is somebody that the Boko Haram group trusted, was also named in the committee, and he also declined. And people are wondering, is there something else going on?
What I knew is that when I declined to serve, I was not surprised when Dr. Adetokunbo Ahmed too announced his withdrawal, and for the reason that he is, I and him are privy to so many things that had happened in the past. Recommendations upon recommendations were given to the government and were thrown away. Now, he declined on the ground that he has made recommendations which were never implemented. And I think we should respect him for that, because the effort which he put in was the first in which the insurgents clearly acknowledged that they sent him to represent them. And I knew even the one I did with when I brought in former President Obasanjo, it took me months and months of contact, and then later there was an agreement on how it will be followed through. There's something with that of the Dr. Ahmed. But for us to simply wake up one day and say,
hello,
don't work that way. If they are appointing people to ministerial positions in Abuja and special advisors positions, they usually consult them. And I don't think that is the best way to go about it. And Dr. Ahmed too reacted that way because he knew if he is to go along, it is not going to lead him to anywhere.
Now, it's been said that there are three angles or three aspects of Boko Haram. There is the political Boko Haram, there is the economic or criminal Boko Haram, there is the religious Boko Haram. In your own understanding of the group, do you think that amnesty could end the whole insurgents? I know that you've said in the past that you support amnesty because you don't believe that the government has the capability to defeat the group. What do you think is the proper way now for the government, especially now that you are not going to be part of this committee that will be recommending what the government should do? What do you think the government should do now as an outsider suggesting things to the government?
Well, what you need to note is that if you set up a committee of 1,000 persons and none of those persons there have access to the insurgents or the trust of the insurgents or the respect of the insurgents, or none of them can communicate to the insurgents, I think you will simply be assembling people who will simply write essay and then submit it to the government, and it's going to make no meaning. So what I said is that dialogue is a way out of this problem here, for the basic fact that the force has been used for the past 3 to 4 years, and we are still moving from a bad situation to a worse one. So now that I am not part of this committee, I will wish them well. But all I have said is that whether the group is segmented into the criminal, the political, and the religious, what is very clear is that they have a leader in the person of Imam Abu Bakr Shekau, and they have their own council they call the Shura. And if you deal with that one, then you will know very well that what will come up later will be remnants. But if you can't address that very problem, the one that has a leadership and followership, and then the political one and the criminal one don't have a leader who said he is the leader of the political wing of Boko Haram or the criminal wing of Boko Haram. The one we know is the one in which they have a leader and they have their council. So if we are to solve this problem, those are the persons we need to deal with. And if you set up any committee and this committee have no action, I think we will simply be wasting our time, wasting our resources. And it is only when we get these people along, then we will be able to solve this problem. And if the idea of amnesty is about sharing money, like the way it is done in Niger Delta, whereby ex-militants are being given money every month, not to kill, not to bomb, and they are also given contracts award in hundreds of millions of dollars, well, it is not the case here. These people have not made any financial demand, and I don't think I can be part of any amnesty committee that will buy peace, that will be sharing money. But nevertheless, if you set up a committee and they have no access to those who are involved in the insurgency, and you allocate hundreds of billions of taxpayers' money to this committee, they end up sharing to people who have no influence and no impact and nothing to do with what is happening. So the money will be spent, but the problem will not be solved. So I think these are things which I would like to point out. But in all, it doesn't mean that we cannot solve this problem. But we have done things wrongly. We have done things the wrong step on so many occasions. And I believe that if we are to get things right, we need to do it right from the first step to the last step. And if you take the wrong step from the first step, and I think that will be, you will end at you arrive at a very wrong answer, and that is what we are about to do now. So the committee can continue to work. I am out, and Dr. Adetokunbo Ahmed have also made his point. He's out. So we wish them well, but I knew, from what I know very well, is that they will be of value to the assignment to which they are to do if they have access to those persons they need to relate with.
Now, recently there's been this clamor for dialogue with Boko Haram, dialogue with different groups. And I'm asking, do you think that most people who initially rejected the call for a national conference are kind of regretting? And is this a chance that Nigeria should not miss to actually have a wider dialogue about the structure and the nature of the state, the Nigerian state?
Well, first of all, in the last few months, there have been a series of so-called dialogue and ceasefire. And from what I know, if you go through some of my interviews, which have made it very clear that most of these ceasefires and dialogue that were said to have happened in the past, apart from that one, which was done by Dr. Ahmed, were simply scam. scams that were organized to extort heavy amount of money from the Nigerian government. So Nigerian government has fell into a series of scams, and which has not produced any result. After the announcement of one ceasefire and dialogue in Saudi Arabia and whatever, the next day the killings and bombings continue. So there are individuals that have that have seen this as a business, which they were heavily involved. If we are to solve this problem once and for all, apart from getting a ceasefire and also addressing the fundamental issues that led to this insurgency, I think a national conference is still important to clarify and also address all issues that are volatile but are lying dormant for now. All those dormant volcanoes that are existing in spots around the country need to be addressed so that in the future, even if this problem is solved, some persons will not say we have a cause, and because we have a cause, we need to kill and bomb to realize our dream or what we believe in. So national conference is still very important, but what is necessary now is to address the violence that is going on in most parts of the north and that is threatening the peace of the country, the stability of the country, and the sustenance of our democracy. These are issues which we need to tackle first and foremost before we move to the issue of national conference.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Mr. Sani, because human rights groups have complained, including people in the north, that the way the JTF, they've been waging this war against Boko Haram, that a lot of innocent people are being killed. And I want to know, has this, the manner of this fight change the minds of people in the north about the need to have a state police? Because there are people who feel that if this were being handled by people from that state, indigenes, who are state policemen, that they wouldn't be pursuing it the way the JTF has been pursuing this.
Well, all over the world, in quote, war against terror has in most times breached the fundamental rights of citizens. Democratic and free states find themselves in a dilemma of having to excuse their responsibility as a free state to protect democratic and civil liberties of citizens, at the same time fight insurgency or armed rebellion. We have seen it in several countries of the world whereby even laws were enacted and that have clearly breached fundamental rights of citizens. So it's not much different from what is happening in northern Nigeria today. In my office here in Kaduna in the north, we every day receive complaints by people from all parts of the north, whereby they have been mishandled by security agencies, either that are searching for insurgents, or they are people who have been suspected of being sympathetic to insurgents and all those things. So I think these are issues that we'll have to look at as a country, because if we have to sacrifice and excuse our rights and freedom in the name of fighting terror, I think the person from the other side has won to say that your freedom, your constitution, and your liberty cannot stand in a period of emergency. So I think these are issues we are facing in the north today. People, houses are raided when the security agencies are looking for insurgents. We also see cases where people are arrested when they are suspected to look like insurgents. We have also seen how sometimes a whole bus, luxurious bus carrying passengers, people are being told to come down and lie on the floor whenever there is any suspicion. And when there is any bomb blast in any parts of a city, the people in that
Hello? Mr. Sani, are you still with us? I think we lost Mr. Sani. Can you try? All right. Can you stay with us? We are talking to Mr. Sani, who is the president of the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria. He was talking about his reasons for rejecting the appointment to the committee looking into how to grant Boko Haram members amnesty. When we get him back, we are going to ask him about the effort he made in the past when he took Obasanjo to Maiduguri to try to solve the problem, and what was the result. You know, we want to know whether the commanders of Boko Haram actually approved that meeting, and why did they kill Baba Fuga a few days later. Also, we asked him about the Emir of Kano, who seemed to be at the receiving end of the Boko Haram groups in Kano. You know, his palace was attacked before, and last week or this week he was also attacked. So when we get him back, we are going to continue our discussion. And remember, we'll give you the chance to weigh in sometime after this program. We will take your calls and we will get your opinion on what we're discussing and what you think about it. Looking at the stories today in the news in America here, we saw how the Americans handled how the Americans handle the terrorist attack in Boston. So we would see how the two are different. So I think we got Mr. Sani back. So we're going to get him back. Mr. Sani, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So you were talking about the JTF and the way that they've been operating in now. Because we have just a few minutes left, let me ask you, there was a time you took Obasanjo to Maiduguri, and yes, you met your group met Boko Haram commanders. How many were present, and was this meeting approved by their commander?
Well, I think what I try to do simply is to see the possibility of initiating a peace talk through the family members of the insurgents. And conditions which they gave through the late Fugu was that we have to move to Maiduguri and do it in the mosque of the late founder of the group. And we went there and sat down, and they all gave us their clear position on what really happened right from the time they took up arms against the state. And they also gave the former president all the photos of their members killed, their houses destroyed, their mosques that were demolished, and their schools that were also destroyed. So it was a fact-finding mission, the possibility of exploring that avenue for a peace talk. If we can remember at that time, things have not gotten to the situation where it is now, and we believe that it was an opportunity that was wasted by the federal government. Actually, if those suggestions were taken clearly at that very time, we couldn't have been where we are today. And I have no one to blame, even though it was said that we shouldn't speak ill of the dead. But clearly, the former NSA was not disposed to the idea of suggestions which we brought that time, thinking very well that they can crush the group within a very few weeks. So he had no time for dialogue at that time.
But do you know why they killed Baba Fuga a few days after that meeting?
Well, all I can say is that we left him healthy and hearty, and 2 days after he was killed. And going by the statement that came from the group later that they were not responsible, and then there was accusation and counter-accusation between the group and the government government blaming the group blaming the government. And I think what is what is very clear is that I do not think they can kill one of their own, and the very fact that he told us that he will make his homework and reach out and until he get the consent of their own hierarchy before he approve of it, before I agreed to talk. And then we had the talk and we left. And I believe if there is any one of them that has intended to kill us, they could have do it at that very time, because we don't even have a bulletproof ring, not even a vest. And we sat down where they wanted us to sit down, and nobody was checked whether anybody was carrying anything. So I could say that is all I can say about it.
Now, recently there have been attacks around the Emir of Kano. His convoy was attacked, and this week an attempted attack happened near his palace. Do you think he's a target of Boko Haram, and if so, why?
Well, the group has never hidden its own opposition to traditional institutions in the north. They have seen them as part and parcel of the establishment. And if we have not forgotten, even the monarch in Borno State has several times escaped death. And there were other smaller monarchs, district heads, and many of them that have been killed over a period of time. And even the monarchs in Yobe State themselves have been targeted. So it bears all their hallmark in the sense that they see them as part of the forces that they should fight. And it is not surprising to say that they are the ones who did it.
Now, last week, Aliko Dangote said that beyond Boko Haram and insecurity problems in Nigeria, that the lack of infrastructure is Nigeria's greatest problem. Now, do you think that rich people in the north, that they've done enough to help correct the conditions that brought about some of these activities by Boko Haram?
Well, you see, this insurgency is bringing in different kind of theories and analysis. Almost everybody is becoming an expert on the causes and the solutions to the problem. But what I can say clearly is that this insurgency is not peculiar to Nigeria. It is in Kashmir, it's in Pakistan, it's in Yemen, as in many countries in the Maghreb. So that is one. Secondly, I think you cannot clearly exonerate the leadership in the country of the past, and as much as we can also blame those of today. If those who have been in power in Nigeria, most of them from the northern part of the country, if they have utilized their opportunity in power to educate the region, to industrialize the region, to empower the people, certainly we couldn't have found ourselves in the situation which we are in today. Likewise, I have said is the failure of leadership is the disconnect between our leaders and those whom they are leading. And it is also, we find ourselves here because of the things we did wrongly in the past or things we refused to do in the past. So leaders of northern extraction that have been in power for a very long time, that have not utilized the opportunity in power to get things right in the region, have a greater share of the blame. As much as the president who is in power today, whom the buck stops on his table, who is also constitutionally empowered to protect lives of citizens, of which he is failing, I think he should also be blamed partly. But I think part of this problem has to do with our history, and also part of it has to do with what the kind of leadership we find ourselves with today.
Okay, one last question. We are running out of time. If you're asked that what lessons should Nigeria learn from this experience, or even the North, for instance, I would like to know what is the most disappointing thing to you in the whole conversation around what to do about Boko Haram?
Well, what we need to understand clearly as a country is that this is a phase in our history. Great nations have all passed through violent phases, bloody phases. And what is a challenge and a problem today may not be a challenge tomorrow. And the calling of our own era today is to speak out and to stand up to the realities and the challenges of our time. When we are faced with a problem like this, what is demanded of all citizens is to contribute to the best you can. And what is demanded of the leadership is to provide leadership. A leader is better valued when, in terms of crisis, he can prove his value and worthiness. But what we can learn generally as a people is that with a lot of effort, we can clearly overcome this. And we shouldn't take things for granted, because we will always pay for what we done wrongly. And if we don't want these things here to get worse, and we don't want it to repeat itself in the future, all those things which has contributed to the problem we are facing today should clearly be avoided. One of which is that we should have a state that is concerned about its citizens, that is committed to the welfare of the citizens. We should have leaders who are principled, who are patriotic, and who put the country first. I think these are all things we need to look at.
All right, Mr. Shehu Sani, thank you so much for coming to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much. Yes.
That was Shehu Sani, the president of the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on amnesty for Boko Haram members with His Eminence, Dr. Makinde. Stay tuned.